They thought their lies would stay hidden forever. They thought their whispers, their cruelty, their betrayal would never see the light of day. They convinced themselves that if they buried it deep enough, no one would notice. But the universe does not lose track of injustice. The universe keeps receipts. Every word they spoke against you, every scheme they plotted in the dark, every mask they wore in front of others while stabbing you behind your back, none of it was forgotten. And now, Chosen One, we're standing in the hour where it's all being dragged into the light. What they did to you was not small. It wasn't just gossip whispered behind closed doors. It wasn't just a rejection or a misunderstanding. It was a calculated attempt to break an innocent soul who never asked for war. They demanded respect while stripping you of honor. They wanted recognition while tearing your name apart. That's not simply unfair, it's treachery in its purest form. And here's the truth: the universe never turns away when innocence is tortured. It watches, it records, and eventually it responds. Maybe you've felt it lately. The air feels different, doesn't it? The atmosphere has shifted. There's a silence hanging around you, but it's not empty. It's the silence that comes after a storm. Their noise is gone. The laughter they once had at your expense has gone thin behind closed doors. They're restless now. They wonder why the same tricks no longer work. Why doesn't the world bend for them the way it used to? They're nervous because their power is slipping through their fingers. And here you are, still standing, still breathing, still rising. I need you to pause and think about this. If you're hearing this message and it feels like it's tugging at your spirit, it's because you're right in the middle of this shift. This is not just another motivational video. This is confirmation. You are witnessing the aftermath of a battle they thought they won, but they were wrong. Because here you are, untouchable, unbroken, and more powerful than before. They thought their betrayal would crush you, but instead it pressed you into strength. They thought their rejection would destroy you, but it only refined your vision. They thought turning people against you would leave you powerless, but it only revealed the power you've carried all along. So hear me, Chosen One, nothing stays buried forever. Lies rot in the dark, but truth always rises like the Sunday. Their schemes were temporary. Their masks were temporary, but your rise, that's permanent. This is your confirmation that justice is not far away, it's already in motion. And if this word is speaking directly to you, don't just sit back and let it pass. Mark this moment, press that like button, subscribe to stay connected with this community. And if you know this is for you, drop the number 777 inches, the comments. That's more than just a number. That's your declaration that you refuse to be defined by their lies any longer. This silence you feel around you right now is not weakness. It's not emptiness. It's the sound of justice about to land. They thought betrayal would break you. They thought isolation would crush you. They believed turning others against you would silence your voice forever. But Chosen One, here you are, still breathing, still standing, stronger than you've ever been. What they didn't understand is that betrayal doesn't always destroy, it refines. It shapes. It presses something out of you that comfort never could. They thought you would collapse under the weight of their lies, but instead you discovered a strength inside of you that even you didn't know was there. Think about it. Some of the sharpest vision you've ever had came in the quietest seasons, when you were left alone, misunderstood and rejected. That isolation became the training ground for your discernment. That pain became the forge for your endurance. What they planned for your ruin turned into the very soil where your resilience grew roots. History has shown us this pattern again and again. Innocent voices mocked, silenced, or slandered, only to rise later with more authority than before. Look back at the courts of old, where liars were punished with the very sentences they plotted for others. Look at modern whistleblowers who exposed corruption so big it shook entire empires. The truth has a way of circling back. Lies may laugh for a season, but they never keep the last laugh. Right now, Chosen One, you are living proof of this cycle. Their empire, no matter how polished, is collapsing brick by brick. Because honor can't be demanded through cruelty and credibility can't be built on deception, They thought they could strip you of dignity while demanding respect for themselves. But the universe is not mocked. It keeps a balance. And when that balance tips, it never falls in favor of dishonor. Let me ask you this. Have you noticed how the very people who once laughed are quieter now? Have you noticed how their confidence seems to shrink while your presence grows stronger? That's not coincidence, that's justice unfolding in real time. Their masks are slipping, their show is ending, and while their applause fades, your integrity is being magnified. So don't despise the seasons of betrayal. Don't curse the nights of loneliness. They were not wasted. They were preparing. The weight they thought would bury you actually planted you. And the chosen one seeds don't stay buried forever, they rise. And your rise is happening right now. If this resonates with you, if you know you've survived betrayal and found strength in the silence, don't hold it in. Press that like button, subscribe so you don't miss what's next, and drop the number 777 inches, the comments, as your declaration. What was meant to destroy me has made me unstoppable. Chosen one, let's get this straight. They didn't just smear your name, they put themselves on trial without even realizing it. When they lied about you, when they twisted your story, when they dressed your innocence in their guilt, they were signing their own confession. They thought no one would see it. They thought their whispers were safe in the dark. But the universe was listening, and the universe does not take slander lightly. Lies cut deeper than most people understand. A lie isn't just words, it's an assassination attempt on identity. When someone says, you made a mistake, that's conflict. But when someone says, you are the mistake, that's character assassination. That's what they did to you. They didn't simply accuse you of actions, they tried to rewrite who you are. They sold entire fictions about your life, convincing others to believe a script that was never yours. But here's what they underestimated: the eyes of the universe are sharper than any disguise. Every costume they placed on your name has already been stripped away. They thought dragging you through the dirt would keep you down forever. But dirt has always been the place where seeds grow. Every false word they buried you under only fertilized your strength. Every rumor that was meant to suffocate you is now the evidence of your resilience. And now the very lies they spread are circling back like a boomerang, exposing them for who they really are. Think about history for a moment. Innocent people have always been smeared by lies. Prophets, leaders, visionaries, all ridiculed and rejected in their time. But later, the truth always rose and the liars were left exposed. Even whistleblowers in our own day were called liars until their evidence tore down entire corporations and governments. Lies sprint, but truth endures. Lies grab attention, but truth keeps it. Lies create temporary shadows, but truth is the sunrise that burns them away. And chosen one, that's what's happening right now. Their masks are slipping. Their accusations have turned into mirrors. They said you were unstable, but now their chaos is undeniable. They said you were dishonest, but their credibility is collapsing. They said you were the problem, but now the problem is written across their foreheads for everyone to see. The universe doesn't just cancel lies, it converts them into proof of the liar's character. I know you've asked yourself, why me? Why did they go this far? The answer is simple. People don't waste energy lying about those who don't matter. They only attack the ones who carry weight, the ones whose presence they cannot ignore. That's you. You weren't just another person in the room, you were the one they couldn't erase. So take a breath, chosen one. This isn't the end of your story, it's the courtroom where their own words testify against them. Your silence was never a weakness, it was evidence. And now, as their empire falls, your resilience is rising as undeniable proof. If this is hitting home for you, if you know their lies tried to erase you, but only ended up revealing the truth, press that like button, subscribe, so you don't miss the next word, and drop 777 inches the comments. Declare it today. Their lies became my evidence. Their words built my testimony. Chosen one, let's make something crystal clear. They didn't come after you because of your flaws, your personality, or some petty misunderstanding. No, Their attacks ran deeper than that. They came after you because they could not accept the decision the universe made to place weight, favor, and authority on your name. Their jealousy was never about you. It was about the one who chose you. Think about it. If you were unremarkable, if you blended into the background like everyone else, they would have ignored you. But you weren't invisible, were you? The moment you walked into the room, the light shifted, the atmosphere tilted, people noticed. And that drove them mad because in their minds that spotlight belonged to them. They had rehearsed, demanded recognition, and begged for validation, but when the light bypassed them and landed on you quiet, authentic, unpolished, it shattered their fragile egos. That's why the hate ran so deep. Envy is never about what you have. It's about what they believe they're entitled to. They thought applause should have been theirs. They thought recognition was owed to them. And when the universe skipped over their performance and chose your authenticity, it broke them inside. Instead of humbling themselves, instead of asking, "What can I learn from this?" they turned their frustration into war against you. But Chosen One, let me remind you, they weren't fighting your character. They were fighting destiny. They were resisting order. They were mocking the wisdom that placed you here. Imagine a group of people standing outside in the rain, screaming at the clouds, demanding the water stop falling. Imagine them booing the ocean, as if their anger could change the tide. That's what their resistance looked like, foolish, desperate, and doomed to fail, because no one wins a fight against truth. Here's the irony. Every time they mocked you, they revealed why they were never chosen. Because people aligned with truth don't fight against it, they honor it. They don't tear down what wasn't built by human hands, they support it, they celebrate it. But these people tried to rewrite destiny with lies and sabotage, and in doing so, they stamped unworthy across their own foreheads. Maybe you've wondered, will they ever admit it? Will they ever apologize? The truth is, many won't. Their pride is too thick, but they won't have to speak it for the world to see it. Their downfall will become their confession. Their losses will be the apology they never gave you. So Chosen One, don't misread their mockery. Their laughter was never power, it was panic. Their ridicule wasn't true, it was recycled insecurity. Their attacks were never about you. They were about their refusal to accept that the universe has invested in you, and no amount of mocking can cancel that. Stand tall in this. Their resistance is proof of your assignment. Their jealousy is confirmation of your authenticity. Their rebellion against your rise is really a rebellion against truth itself, and no one has ever won that fight. If this resonates, if you felt their jealousy pressing against you, mark this moment. Press the like button, subscribe to stay connected, and drop 777 inches, the comments, as your declaration, "I am chosen, and nothing can reverse it." Chosen One, let's be real. The guilty never fear lies because lies can be twisted and controlled. What terrifies them is innocence. Why? Because innocence makes corruption impossible to hide. Your clean hands became a mirror they could not escape. Your calm spirit revealed their restlessness. Your honesty exposed their deception. That is why they came after you. Not because you attacked them, but because your very existence shined too much light on their darkness. Think about it. Imagine a pack of wolves circling, not because you fought them, but because you refused to howl with them. You didn't join their chaos. You didn't sink to their level. You stayed calm, unshaken, peaceful, and that peace drove them insane. They couldn't stand the contrast. Your stillness made their turbulence obvious. Your integrity revealed their stains. So in their desperation, they decided your destruction was necessary for their survival. That's the truth behind their obsession. They didn't need you guilty, they needed you broken. They needed you dirty enough to justify the filth they were already drowning in. They tried baiting you into losing control, cornering you, pushing you, hoping you'd snap. But you didn't, and that self-control enraged them even more. So they escalated. They fabricated stories, exaggerated rumors, painted you as the villain in a play they wrote. They weren't just attacking your name, they were trying to erase it. They wanted your credibility gone, your influence destroyed, your honor stripped away. But here's what they couldn't accept: lies can travel fast, but truth outlives them all. They went digging for dirt on you, but ended up burying themselves in their own mud. That's poetic justice. That's divine reversal. Because when innocence walks into the room, corruption starts to sweat. And chosen one, your innocence never wavered even under attack. That's why justice is no longer whispering, it's roaring. The universe saw it all. Every staged betrayal, every twisted word, every attempt to crucify what was pure, it was all recorded. And now the scales are tipping. Not because you were perfect, but because your integrity stood unshaken in the face of their hate. That's the kind of evidence that no lie can erase. So I need you to hear this: their desperation was never proof of your weakness. It was proof of your impact. They targeted you because your presence made their excuses crumble. They tried to stain you because your innocence revealed their corruption. But now the very purity they hated is the testimony that vindicates you. Chosen one, justice is no longer delayed. The scales are balancing in your favor. What they meant for your destruction has become the undeniable evidence of your rise. If this word is piercing your heart right now, don't just keep it inside. Press that like button, subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next, and drop 777 inches, the comments, as your declaration. My innocence is my weapon, and it has already exposed their corruption. Chosen one, let's talk about the greatest twist of all. They thought they were testing you. They thought you were the one on trial, but the truth, it was never your trial, it was theirs. They believed they were the examiners holding the red pen of judgment, measuring how much pain you could take, how long you could endure before you broke. They mocked you, baited you, smirked at your silence, convinced themselves they were in control. But in reality, every move they made was evidence against them. Picture this: someone holding a magnifying glass over you, thinking they're about to burn holes in your life. But what they didn't realize is that the glass was flipped around, and the light wasn't exposing you, it was scorching them. That's what happened here. Every dagger they threw became proof of their cruelty. Every false smile that hid envy, every fake concern that masked control, every bitter word dressed up as wisdom, it all reflected back at them. You weren't the one unraveling, they were. And here's the powerful part: the universe never needed to test your strength. It already knew you could endure. It already knew what you carried. The silence, the calm, the refusal to collapse, that wasn't about proving you. That was about revealing them. Your endurance became the spotlight. Your patience became the evidence. Your silence was the mirror that showed them who they really are. Think about history. The innocent have always been placed on trial, only for the liars, the accusers, and the deceivers to be exposed in the end. Ancient courts where false witnesses were punished with the very sentences they wished on others. Modern scandals where those who plotted in the dark ended up in the spotlight of shame. The pattern has never changed. The guilty dig their own pit, and then they fall into it. Maybe you've asked yourself, why did I have to take so much? Why was I put in that position? The answer is this: it wasn't about you failing, it was about them revealing. You were the mirror they couldn't escape. They saw themselves every time they tried to twist you. They could have chosen humility, but instead they chose cruelty. They could have walked away, but they chose envy. And every choice sealed their own outcome. Chosen one, what they thought was your downfall was actually their investigation. What they thought was your weakness was the stage where their true character was exposed. And now the verdict is clear: they failed. They tried to grade your test, but they ended up writing their own judgment. So don't waste time replaying their schemes in your mind. Don't waste tears over their cruelty. Their trial is already over. Their masks are gone. And you, chosen one, stand as living proof that patience, silence, and integrity are stronger than every lie they ever spoke. If this resonates, if you know their attacks were never your test, but their own downfall, press that like button, subscribe to, stay connected, and drop 777 inches. The comments as your declaration. What they meant as my trial has become their judgment. Chosen One, let's uncover another layer of this story. They didn't just mistreat you, they made you their scapegoat. They projected all their failures, their insecurities, their guilt onto your name, thinking that if they sacrificed you somehow, their demons would quiet down. They convinced themselves that if they threw you to the wolves, their hunger would be satisfied. But listen to me, there was nothing pure about their motives. It wasn't justice. It wasn't cleansing. It wasn't correct. It was envy. It was ego. It was evil. They twisted every part of your identity to fit the story they needed to tell. Your silence they called guilt. Your strength they called arrogance. Your discernment they labeled rebellion. They flipped the script, painting you as the villain so they could play the role of victim. And because you refused to fight their dirty battles, because you didn't retaliate, you became the perfect target. Innocence irritates corruption, and your very presence was proof of everything they lacked. Think about it. When wolves can't hide their hunger, they look for a lamb to blame. That's what they did. They needed someone to burn, someone to erase, someone to carry the weight of everything they couldn't fix in themselves. And they chose you. Not because you were guilty, but because you were safe. They assumed your quiet spirit, your refusal to fight back would mean you'd never rise again. That was their mistake. Here's the reversal. They never expected the universe is not letting it slide. Every tear you cried, every insult you endured, every betrayal you carried in silence, it's all been logged into the ledger of justice. They thought your silence protected them, but it only made the evidence airtight. They thought your restraint would let them off the hook, but it only magnified their cruelty. Now the bill is due. And Chosen One, the universe collects debts with interest. Pain doesn't disappear, it transforms into evidence. Betrayal doesn't vanish, it becomes testimony. And right now, the very suffering they tried to bury has turned into the spotlight exposing them. They thought they erased you, but really they exposed themselves. They thought they cleansed their guilt by sacrificing you, but instead, they carved their guilt into stone, permanent and undeniable. So take courage. You don't need revenge. You don't need to chase them down. Justice is already unfolding. The debt is being collected not by your hands, but by the one who saw it all. And when the universe restores balance, it restores it fully. Their cruelty doesn't get the last word. Your endurance does. Chosen One, if you know they tried to make you their scapegoat, but you can feel that justice is already in motion, mark this moment. Press the like button, subscribe so you don't miss what's coming, and drop 777 inches the comments as your declaration. The debt is collected. My name is cleared. Their guilt is undeniable. Chosen One, hear me on this. They didn't just try to break you, they used you. They built their image, their reputation, even their platform off of your pain. Every time they dragged your name through the mud, they collected sympathy. Every time they mocked your struggles, they gained attention. They took your silence and turned it into their stage. And while you were walking through the valley, they were busy turning your wounds into their spotlight. But here's the truth. Reputation built on lies is like a house built on quicksand. It may look strong for a moment, but it will sink the second truth rises. And that's what's happening right now. Their applause is fading, their audience is restless. The mask no longer fits. Because dishonor never lasts, it always collapses under its own weight. Think about it. How many times in history have we seen this play out? People building empires on exploitation, manipulating narratives, painting themselves as victims or heroes while feeding off someone else's pain. For a while it works. For a while the crowd claps. But when the fruit shows, when outcomes don't match the story, the audience wakes up. And Chosen One, that's what's happening for you. The very people who once believed their lies are now uncomfortable, now questioning, now realizing the truth. They thought your silence was weakness. They thought you not clapping back meant they had won. But silence is a strategy. You didn't need to fight for vindication. You didn't need to match their performance, because the universe has been preparing for the reversal all along. and now the script is flipping. The same rooms where they once mocked you are the same rooms where their shame is unfolding. That's not coincidence, that's correction. Chosen One, your name is being restored, not through revenge, but through reality. The universe doesn't reward deception, it exposes it. And while they are left carrying the rotten fruit of dishonor, you are rising untouched. That's why their peace is gone. That's why their alliances are crumbling. Because what they built wasn't real. It was a counterfeit kingdom, and counterfeit kingdoms don't stand. So let this fuel you. You don't need to announce their downfall. It's happening right in front of everyone. You don't need to clap back. They're already choking on their own lies. Your focus is your rise, your integrity, your assignment, because real favor doesn't need performance. Real honor doesn't need manipulation. It stands on its own. If this resonates, if you know they built themselves up by tearing you down, but now you can see the reversal unfolding, don't stay quiet. Press that like button, subscribe to this community, and drop 777 inches, the comments, as your declaration. The script is flipped. My name is restored. Their false stage is collapsing. Chosen One, let's break down something that confused you for so long. There was a season when you asked, why is nothing happening? Why is the universe silent while I'm being attacked? You thought maybe the stillness meant the universe was undecided, maybe weighing both sides, maybe even questioning whether you deserved the pain you went through. But listen carefully, the silence was never absent. It was strategy. Patience is not weakness, it's precision. The universe was not ignoring what they did to you. It was building a case so airtight they can't escape it. Every whisper they spoke behind your back, every fake handshake, every dagger disguised as a smile, it was all being documented. They thought they got away with it. They mistook silence for permission. They mistook delay for approval. But what they didn't realize is that silence is often the most dangerous sign of all, because when the universe goes quiet, it means evidence is being gathered. Think about a storm building offshore. To the naked eye, the water looks calm, the sky looks harmless. People relax thinking nothing is coming. But beneath the surface, the current is shifting, pressure is building, and when that storm finally hits the shore, it hits with undeniable force. That's exactly what was happening in your life. The quiet wasn't neglected, it was preparation. The longer the silence, the stronger the impact. Chosen One, if justice had come too quickly, they could have hidden behind excuses. They could have blamed others. They could have rewritten the story. But stretched out over time, their corruption painted itself in full color. Now no one can deny it. The same silence they laughed at, the same stillness they mocked, is the silence that sealed their fate. The rope they thought was their safety was actually their noose, and now it's tightening. Let me ask you, how many times have you thought, why was it allowed to go on this long? The answer is simple. If it ended too soon, people could still defend them. But now their actions have spoken so loudly that even their allies can't cover for them. That's why the timing matters. That's why the wait was necessary. Chosen One, you were never forgotten. You were being defended in slow motion. The silence was never the absence of justice, it was the setup. And now the wave has reached the shore. The case is closed. The verdict is in motion. So stand firm. Don't confuse patience with abandonment. Don't confuse silence with defeat. Justice delayed is not justice denied. It's justice multiplied. If this word is hitting your spirit right now, press that like button, subscribe to stay locked in, and drop 777 inches, the comments as your declaration. The silence was strategy. The storm has arrived. Chosen One, let me make this plain. They weren't really fighting who you are right now. They were terrified of who you were becoming. Their attacks weren't about your present. They were a preemptive strike against your future. They saw flashes of the healed, elevated, unstoppable version of you, and it made their stomachs turn. Even your shadow was too powerful for them to handle. Think about it. When a seed is just breaking through the soil, it looks small, fragile, and easy to crush. But inside that tiny seed is the blueprint for a towering tree. And that's what they saw in you. You were just beginning, but they sensed the fire before you even felt the flame. They knew that if you ever stepped fully into your purpose, their lies, their illusions, their masks wouldn't survive a single day under the weight of your truth. So what did they do? They tried to cut you down before you could grow. They spread rumors, twisted truths, manufactured drama, all to suffocate your credibility before people had the chance to see your fruit. They weren't punishing your past, they were trying to erase your future. Fear doesn't fight. What is it fights what's coming. That's why their attacks felt relentless, like wave after wave. They weren't responding to your mistakes, they were reacting to your destiny. And chosen one, this is the irony. Every attempt to bury you was actually planting you deeper. Burial looks the same as planting until the seed breaks the ground. They thought they were ending you, but really they were positioning you. They thought they were closing the book, but they were only writing the prologue. Now look at you. Their schemes are exhausted. Their arsenal is empty, and yet here you are still rising. Not by clapping back, not by forcing revenge. Simply by existing as undeniable proof that no scheme against you prospered. Your rise itself is the judgment. Your success is the rebuttal. And nothing terrifies them more than watching you become everything they feared you would be. So the next time you ask, why me? Why did they pour so much energy into tearing me down before I even arrived at my peak? Remember this, they saw it before you did. They knew who you were becoming before you fully believed it yourself. And their panic was proof of your potential. Chosen one, this is your confirmation. Their war was never against your present, it was against your future. And your future is unfolding right now. If you feel this truth pulling on your spirit, press that like button, subscribe so you don't miss the next word, and drop 777 inches, the comments as your declaration. They feared my future, but my future is unstoppable. Chosen one, this is where it gets powerful. They mistook your restraint for weakness. They saw you holding back and assumed you were afraid. They watched you stay silent while they ran their mouths and convinced themselves you lacked courage. They bragged, laughed, strutted around like they had won. But what they never understood was that your silence wasn't submission, it was strategy. Mercy is not weakness. Mercy is a warning. Restraint is not fear, it's discipline. And when restraint is ignored, it becomes the sharpest weapon. You weren't quiet because you had nothing to say. You weren't still because you lacked power. You were letting the universe handle the case in ways no retaliation ever could. Let's be real. You had enough truth to shred them. Enough receipts to burn their carefully crafted image to the ground. You could have humiliated them with precision. You could have matched their venom word for word. But you didn't. Why? Because you understood something they never could not. Every battle deserves your energy. Sometimes the loudest weapon is silence. Sometimes the greatest strike is refusing to strike at all. Think of two fighters in the ring. One throws wild punches, desperate to dominate, exhausting themselves with every swing. The other stands calm, patient, letting the reckless one tire out. Eventually, the one who lost control exposes their own weakness. That was you, chosen one. They swung wildly. You stood firm, and in the end, your restraint became their undoing. They thought mercy meant safety. They thought delay meant denial. They thought the absence of immediate consequences meant they were untouchable. But the universe does not withhold justice because it forgot. It withholds it to give space for people to do better. And when they waste that space doubling down on cruelty, they're not winning, they're digging their own grave. And now that season of mercy has ended. The protection they thought they had is gone. Their alliances are drying up. Their own words are turning against them. The same audience that once clapped for them is now questioning everything. Their downfall isn't just punishment, it's clarity. It's the moment everyone sees the truth for what it really is. So chosen one, stand tall. Don't shrink back. Your restraint was never a weakness, it was evidence. Your silence was not fear, it was testimony. And now the verdict is undeniable. Their arrogance wrote their ending. and your discipline wrote your survival. If this message is striking you right now, press that like button, subscribe to stay connected, and drop 777 inches, the comments, as your declaration. My restraint was not weakness, it was my greatest strength. Chosen one, let's pull back the curtain on another deception. They truly believed that because nothing happened immediately, they were safe. They mocked you openly. They whispered your name with arrogance. They laughed at your tears and sneered at your resilience. And when no doors slammed shut, when no lightning struck, when you didn't clap back, they grew bolder. They thought silence meant safety. They thought delay meant escape. But let me tell you the truth. Delay is not disinterest. Delay is build-up. Delay is the storm gathering strength before it shakes the earth. Think about thunder. Before it roars, the sky darkens and the air shifts, but the ground remains still. People assume nothing is coming, but then without warning, the rumble builds into a force that shakes everything in its path. That's what the universe was doing. It wasn't ignoring their cruelty. It was waiting until the right moment, when the response could not be denied, explained away, or rewritten. Patience was never approved. Patience was precision. The universe gave them rope, and instead of using that rope to climb out of their darkness, they used it to hang themselves. Every rumor was another knot. Every betrayal was another loop. Every lie was another twist in the cord. And now that rope has tightened, not because of you, but because of them. Maybe you've asked yourself, why did it last so long? Why didn't it end sooner? And here's your answer. If judgment came too quickly, they would have cried innocence. They would have said, see, this isn't fair. But stretched over time, their own actions told the story in full color. The delay wasn't for them, it was for you, so that when the scales tipped, no one could twist it into revenge. No one could say it was your bitterness. The verdict would be undeniable. And chosen one, the storm has arrived. Their laughter is silent now. Their confidence has melted into confusion. The thunder they swore would never come is shaking their foundations. This isn't negotiation. This isn't a debate. This is retribution. The delay they thought was protection was actually the multiplier of their sentence. So don't mistake waiting for weakness. Don't mistake silence for defeat. The universe never forgot. It was just letting them write their own ending. And now the script they wrote has become their judgment. If you feel this truth pressing on your spirit right now, press that like button, subscribe so you don't miss what's ahead, and drop 777 inches, the comments as your declaration. The delay was not their safety, it was their sentence. Chosen one, let me tell you something they never expected. Your silence wasn't weakness, it was evidence. Every time you chose not to clap back, every time you walked away, instead of lowering yourself into their chaos, the universe was documenting it. You thought your quiet made you look powerless. You thought your refusal to fight on their level made people believe you had lost. But in reality, your silence was the loudest testimony of all. They mistook your quiet spirit for defeat. They pointed at your restraint and said, see, we broke them. But what they didn't know was that you weren't staying silent because you had nothing to say. You were staying silent because you knew exactly who was watching. Not the gossipers, not the crowd, but the judge who never misses a detail. Sometimes the loudest argument isn't made with words. Sometimes it's made with stillness. Think about a courtroom. One side screams, yells, and waves papers around. The other sits calmly waiting. Who does the jury pay attention to? The one who doesn't flinch. That was you. While they shouted lies, twisted stories, and tried to assassinate your character, you remained composed. Not because you were weak, but because you understood your silence was speaking louder than their chaos. Chosen one, every step you took in dignity became another piece of evidence. Every insult you didn't return, every rumor you didn't chase, every wound you endured without revenge, it was all recorded. They thought your silence protected them, but it sealed their fate. It made their guilt undeniable. It turned their arrogance into the only voice left on trial. And here's the truth, you could have destroyed them. You had enough truth to burn their false image to the ground. You had enough receipts to humiliate them in public, but you didn't. That choice, your discipline, your patience, your refusal to get dirty, became their undoing. Because restraint is not weakness. Restraint is power under control. Maybe you've asked yourself, did my silence make me look weak? Did it make them think they had won? Yes, for a moment it did. They bragged, they laughed, they strutted like victors. But now their downfall has become undeniable. The very thing they mocked your silence is the very thing that's haunting them. What they thought was your weakness has become the evidence that condemns them. So, chosen one, lift your head. You are not just surviving, you are testifying. Your silence wrote a record no lie can erase. The verdict is in, and it is not in their favor. If this word is hitting your spirit right now, press that like button, subscribe so you never miss what's next, and drop 777 inches the comments as your declaration. My silence was not weakness, it was evidence, and it sealed their fate. Chosen one, listen carefully, they will try to erase you. They thought if they rewrote the story enough times, people would forget who you really are. They believed if they dragged your name through the dirt long enough, the mud would stick. They thought if they erased you from conversations, slammed doors in your face, or buried your reputation under gossip, you would vanish. And for a moment, it even looked like they succeeded. People turned cold, opportunities disappeared. Your character was doubted. Their false version of you became louder than your truth. But what they forgot is this: the universe holds the pen, not them. And the universe doesn't write in pencil. It is written in permanent ink. Everything they tried to erase is being restored, not in whispers, but in boldness. Your name is being etched in gold, highlighted for all to see. The very lies they spread are now fuel for your authenticity. The very doors they slammed shut are swinging open again, not because you begged, but because truth has a way of breaking locks they thought were unbreakable. History shows us this over and over. Powerful people tried to erase prophets, visionaries, reformers, only for their names to be remembered forever, carved in history books, while the names of their enemies faded into dust. Erasure is temporary, truth is permanent. They thought they held the record, but the universe is rewriting history, with your name shining brighter than ever. Chosen one, maybe you've asked, why did it take so long? Why did I have to live in the shadows of their lies? Because sometimes the universe doesn't just restore, it rewrites. It doesn't just patch up the broken chapters. It flips the script so dramatically that your vindication becomes undeniable. What they meant as an interruption is becoming the setup for your greatest unveiling. And here's the part that should give you peace: they don't get to edit this chapter anymore. They don't get to control the narrative. They don't get the final word. All they can do is watch as the story they tried to erase gets rewritten in golden ink. Your dignity, your honor, your truth is being put on display, not hidden in the footnotes. So, chosen one, stand tall. What was buried is being uncovered. What was twisted is being straightened. What was erased is being engraved. You were never forgotten, you were only being prepared for this moment. If this word resonates with you, if you feel deep down that your story is being rewritten in gold, press that like button, subscribe to stay part of this journey, and drop 777 inches the comments as your declaration. They tried to erase me, but my name is etched in gold. Chosen one, this part is important. They didn't just try to erase your name, they tried to erase your worth. They thought if they dishonored you in public, they could get away with a quiet excuse behind closed doors. They believed if they mocked you in front of a crowd, a whispered apology in private would somehow balance the scales. But the universe doesn't work like that. What is torn down in public must be restored in public. Anything less is unfinished business. They tried to dismantle your credibility while others watched. They twisted your character in places where you weren't present to defend yourself. They didn't just hurt your feelings, they tried to strip you of dignity. And now the universe is demanding balance. The same mouths that mocked you will be pressed to honor you. The same voices that rallied others against you will have no choice but to say, "We were wrong." Let's be clear. This isn't about humiliating them. It's about corrections. It's about balance. It's about justice. Public destruction requires public restoration. Private regret is not enough. The universe is forcing the truth to come out loud, undeniable, in the same spaces where your name was once dragged, because silence might soothe them, but it doesn't heal you. Healing comes when dignity is restored, not in whispers, but in boldness. Chosen one, maybe you've asked yourself, will anyone ever admit what they did? Will the truth ever come out? And the answer is yes, and it won't come quietly. The reversal will be clear. The same platforms they used to spread lies will become platforms that expose them. The same crowds that once clapped at your downfall will see your honor announced. That's how the balance is set straight. This is not revenge. This is justice. The universe doesn't just close cases halfway, it completes them. It makes sure no doubt remains. And when the reversal comes, it won't be faint, it won't be hidden. It will be loud enough for everyone to recognize who was innocent and who was guilty all along. So, chosen one, prepare your heart. You are about to hear your worth acknowledged out loud, not whispered, not hidden, but declared. The same stages where you were once shamed will become the stages where your honor is restored. If this message is pulling at your spirit, press that like button, subscribe so you don't miss what's coming, and drop 777 inches the comments as your declaration. My worth will be restored publicly, and no one can silence it. Chosen one. Now we've arrived at the moment you need to hear the most. Every lie, every attack, every scheme, none of it was the ending. It was only the introduction, the prologue to your unveiling. They thought their betrayal was the main story, but it was only the setup. The universe has already shifted the balance, and your name is being restored louder, clearer, and stronger than ever before. What they meant for destruction became the foundation of your rise. What they thought would silence you became the very proof of your resilience. You are living testimony that justice does not forget, patience is never wasted, and true honor, real lasting honor, can never be erased. They tried to define you by their cruelty, but now the world sees that their cruelty defined them. You chosen one stand as evidence. Evidence that no matter how much mud is thrown, truth always rises like the Sunday. Think about it. Look at history. Every innocent voice that was mocked, slandered, or dismissed eventually rose while their enemies faded into the background. Lies sprint, but truth endures. Deception shouts, but integrity echoes forever. And here you are, standing as the echo of endurance, the sound of survival, the proof that what was meant to bury you only planted you. And I need you to let this sink in. They don't get to define you. They don't get the last word. Their words withered, but your truth remains. Their arrogance collapsed, but your dignity stands tall. They tried to strip you of identity, but all they did was reveal their own. In the end, they are remembered for their cruelty, but you will be remembered for your strength. This is your moment. This is the hour where dignity rushes back to your name, not because you begged for it, but because the universe demanded it. And when the universe restores, no enemy can revoke it. No crowd can cancel it. No false witness can rewrite it. The same silence they mocked has become the sound of justice landing in your favor. So, chosen one, stand tall. This is not just survival, it is vindication. This is not just restoration, it is revelation. You are the living proof that the universe never forgets that patience is power and that silence is not weakness, but strategy. Your name is etched, your dignity is sealed, and your honor is untouchable. If this conclusion is speaking to your soul, press that like button. Subscribe to stay connected with this movement and drop 777 inches. The comments as your declaration. My honor is restored, my patience has prevailed, and nothing can erase my truth.